and there were guys more than capable of doing that on a regular basis, okay? But what I'm seeing in today's game, and one of you guys mentioned the analytical aspect of it, okay? These nerds computing and all this. And,
just so you know, we're going live now, so.
Yep.
Oh,
right.
Let's revisit this, Bill, and we'll get started.
Yeah, we'll definitely go into it. We're already going 15 minutes late, but that's all right. Might as well get started. Some of the best chat we have is that 10 minutes we're doing the sound check.
Yeah.
Live, so we don't have to worry about it. But we got all night, like I said, like we're night owls for these things, so it's all good.
Let's get started then, gentlemen. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a Ball Caps and Bagpipes NLBMArt Webcast. I'm John McKellar of the Glasgow Comets.
And I'm Jason Durr, aka Bubba on Baseball, and I'm the owner of Dugout Classics.
Tonight we're rejoined by Bill Comalis Jr. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us again, man. Let's start with what we were just discussing there in the 10 minutes before we went live. The state of the modern game.
We'll have to rehash the last 20 minutes of conversation.
Let's try and recap. You guys were talking quite a bit about modern baseball and the way it's changed. It's quite ironic. Some of your stances that you have on modern baseball, given that you do have the website Modern Baseball Art. It's modern art, but with a classic baseball touch, I guess, would be the best way to put it. Let's talk about modern baseball art and how you approach that and how that jives with how you view the game.
So, make a long story short, I grew up a Dodger fan, and I've been making art for my whole life, and circumstances happened when I was 30, and then I started to really focus on art at that point. And then about 5 years later, I just got really heavy with baseball art, okay? Now, the baseball art that I grew up with was like Dick Perez. You guys know who Dick Perez is? He was the one that did like the Diamond Kings Donruss cards when I was a kid. And that was one of the coolest cards and the coolest sets within the card set for me because I liked art, and it hit all the bases. And then as an adult, being a modern type artist where I do like abstract art and I do like modern art, I just wanted to kind of fuse all of those things into baseball art. I wanted to make baseball art that I hadn't seen yet, okay? I hadn't seen cool baseball art as an adult. All right, I just hadn't seen it, and I'm a really big Jean-Paul Basquiat fan, and I had just come off and seeing an exhibition of his, and the way that he used words and textures and things that weren't exactly just only a picture, I wanted to try it like that, and my subjects were the Negro Leagues. That was the first baseball art I'd done as an adult was regarding the Negro Leagues. And it just turned into a whole thing. I mean, 18 paintings, exhibits, winning competitions from it. And it really just derives from a passion of mine for baseball, one, and history, two. I was a terrible student in school. The focus was not there, man, like all over the place, everywhere but school. But the one subject that I was interested in was history. I mean, whether the teacher was talking about World War I or whatever, I could pay attention to that, you know what I mean? And as an adult, those subjects are, so art, making art, and history. And then my being inspired by baseball cards. Oh yeah, because regarding math, I was so bad at math as a kid, but from baseball cards, I could whip up a batting average real quick. I could whip up a slugging percentage real quick based on the information. So I learned from it. I was always really into where players come from, what their hometown is, how much they weigh, what school they went to,
how many kids they have and married, because it's always the back of
you know what I'm saying?
What their favorite episode of Cheers is.
Yeah, and it gave me all the information on players other than just them being the athlete. You know what I mean? It gave you behind the scenes stuff that I don't know. That's what I like. So my art is really just talking about baseball and just making stuff that I don't see other people do. Because I really don't, I'm not into current trends. I'm an old head like that. You know what I mean? Like I only want to draw Will Clark and Wade Boggs and Ricky Henderson and my era, 1989 All-Star team. You know what I mean? Like that's the height for me, was 1989 when I was 14. And then we're talking about the new stuff. Well, I'm not into 100 pitchers per game. You know what I mean? I watched Nolan Ryan. I mean, come on, dude. Like, if there's one player that's so not like today, is Nolan Ryan. You know what I mean? Just 8 innings like Advil, you know? So, I don't know. We were talking about the state of the current game. I'm a traditionalist. You know what I mean? And what I see is, I see a game today that's being dominated by not the people watching it, but by the TV networks and gambling. Oof, the gambling one's driving me nuts. Like all you see is DraftKings. All you see, and I don't do that, so I can only really name DraftKings, but there's like 10 of them that are being promoted on every major sport. You know what I mean?
The other one's FanDuel, which is actually based here in Edinburgh.
See, and so that's what I'm seeing the state of the game is going to. And when that happens, when you're so analytically driven, the motives in the game are analytically driven too. And I guess make a long story short, we had a Hall of Fame ceremony, or no ceremony, because no one got inducted the last time around. Okay, we're sitting here on gambling driven sports and we didn't put in Pete Rose, so the whole game is encompassed by gambling and Pete Rose is hosed for it. If there's one person that needs to be in, it's him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. So a lot of people are like, oh, there's no one got elected to the Hall of Fame. Where do you stand on that? I'm okay with that. Like, it's supposed to be the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of, yeah, you're all right. You're very good. Like, this is where I've had the argument, like Mike Messina. Mike Messina was always very good. He was never great. You know, I know this is blasphemy for John. This is one of John's favorite players.
Hold me back. Somebody hold me back.
But for me, he was always just very good. Tom Glavine was always very good. He just never got hurt, and he played for the Braves. You know, Steve Azier, he was supposed to be the ace of the Braves in the '90s, and I think it was because he played on that team. Other circumstance. I mean, he obviously Glavine went to the Mets and did just fine. And I know John's gonna kill me later for saying Messina's very good. But you know, the Hall of Fame for me is supposed to be the best of the best, that top 1%, and not the guys that kind of stuck around for 20 years and happen to win 15 games a year for 20 years to qualify. You know,
I think ultimately, when you look at a guy like a Glavine or a Maddox or a Messina, it's easy enough to say, oh, guys who just stick around and happen to win 15 games a year for 20 years, but really, we have to look at how difficult it is to actually do that for that long every single year. How often does it actually happen where someone wins 15 games per year?
Okay, how many games a year did Livan Hernandez win for the Yankees the whole time there? He won like 15 games a year just because he played in the Yankees. He wasn't that great.
You mean Orlando Hernandez?
Okay, Orlando Luana. Yeah, exactly. You know, El Duque. El Duque wasn't that great, but you know,
El Duque was literally god tier when he was in the postseason, though.
that doesn't matter to the postseason. You know, it was actually an interesting stat, and you're not gonna know who this guy is. It was Joe McGrain, and somebody said like 1988 he was like 2-8, but his WHIP was like 0.88 and an ERA of 2.18. And I was like, how do you have an ERA and WHIP that low
Yeah.
and only win, you know, 6 or 8 games over a course
Yeah,
of the season?
that sounds like something that a reliever would end up with, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah. So this is where I'm at. I mean, I'm not an East Coast guy. I'm a West Coast guy. So I'm always have my bias for that there. So when if Messina and Glavner are destroying my Mariners and Padres, of course I'm gonna hate them more.
It's funny you mentioned postseason not counting and whatnot. A guy who we've had on the show a couple of times, Jason A. Schwartz from Heavy J Studios, actually wrote a very interesting article recently about the Hall of Fame and his idea of a Hall of Fame 2.0. I don't know if any of you guys saw that.
No.
Where he kind of made the argument that it's time to change the kind of structure of the Hall of Fame, have the Hall of Fame as it is, but also there should be an element of it for, you know, people who've made an impact in terms of like a special moment or a special stat that maybe they're not like Hall of Fame careers, but you know the impact that they have on baseball history is still there. I would definitely recommend giving it a read if you can find it. I think it was on his blog.
Yeah, that would be like McGuire and Sosa. You know, that would get them in. But
yeah, like for the run for 61, you know, it was a historic moment, and you kind of add that kind of we know that there's obviously controversy and all the rest of it, and we're all sick of talking about it. But it allows people who made an impact historically in the game, but maybe didn't have the numbers or maybe have that cloud over the career, to be recognised as Hall of Famers for what they've done, but also not necessarily be enshrined in the proper Hall of Fame.
No, I agree. And with the way the game is being played today, you can be rest assured after, if even Miguel Cabrera can get his 3,000th hit, who else? Who else? I mean, Altuve was the guy when he was doing 200 hits a year consecutively, but when there's not a trash can being banged, he ain't hitting shit.
Yeah, allegedly 200 hits a year.
Altuve's chances of 3,000 hits are going to go down from here on out. So the idea of the 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, 300 wins, I think there's a couple other ones, but those seem to be the big ones. Okay. Mike Trout is on a nice pace. Okay. If you talk, but see, I've seen nice paces before. You know, I've seen this.
Yeah.
I remember Darryl Strawberry was on a very nice pace.
I remember Albert Pujols at one point was looking like he would end up with like 900 home runs and just absolutely obliterated records left, right, center.
So I've seen nice paces, all right, and I don't see Mike Trout. I mean, I don't see Mike Trout even hitting 600 home runs. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because Mike Trout hasn't played a full season in baseball, but maybe 1 or 2 years out of his 10. He's constantly ringing in at 130, 130, missing 30 games here, missing 40 games there. And when he gets older, right now he's big and strong. As he gets older, the pace is not gonna maintain. That's all I'm saying. He's a big guy, and the big guys are the ones that go down hard, okay? Ken Griffey Jr. was not a big guy. Ken Griffey Jr. was always, I mean, lean.
He was lean.
He wasn't big, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was very lean.
You know, and he had injuries too, but he crashed into walls and stuff, you know what I mean? Like
he broke his wrist, and then
things like that. It wasn't like McGuire type stuff, like before McGuire got on the juice, where he's just so big that his ankle can't even hold him up. You know what I mean? Like there were times when McGuire was down to playing 30 games a year in like 1988 and 89. Like and you can't sustain. So anyways, the stats are not going to be there anymore. So if they want people to go to Hall of Fame, they're going to have to bring the tolerances down a little bit if they want anybody. Because to me, I like Todd Helton. People want to talk about Colorado, this and that. It's a real baseball team. It's a real baseball park. But doesn't it not count? Like when my Dodgers go there and hit a home run, it counts. Yeah. So you can't hold that against a player. Todd Helton was a fantastic player. He was I think he won multiple Gold Gloves. And he was a beast when he was a beast. Like, I mean, consecutive 130, 40 RBI years, and a gritty player, like the kind of player that I like. You know what I mean? He was gritty, and he hit for high averages. And what's wrong with 400 home runs? You know, like as like even a stepping stone to letting these guys in that aren't going to be hitting 500 home runs ever again. 300 wins? No,
not again. No, not going to see that again.
You know, so what's
we're lucky to see 250
going to be like? What's the new school Hall of Famer going to be like? So I feel like what they need to start doing is start letting some of these borderline people in. Like, look, man, okay. Like, and I hear what you're saying, Jason. Like, that's my idea of the Hall of Fame too. I come from the Ty Cobb guys, the Babe Ruths, the Christy Mathewsons, like the Cy Youngs. That was baseball to me. And when I was a kid, they were still playing that game. You know what I mean? They were still playing the game where a guy pitched 9 if he was the ace, and where your guy played all the time, and they didn't have to shuffle. To me, when I see Cody Bellinger's not in the lineup, or he's not batting 3rd or 4th, no matter what he's batting, you're doing the team a disservice, okay? Because he's always due, okay? When I was a kid, Will Clark, even if he was on a 10-game skid, he was not going down to bat 6th.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the game was still pure when I was a kid. I mean, yeah, whatever was going under all the underlying stuff, I don't know about, but like it was still played. You could still come in hard to second. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
like it's a more babied game, and because of that babied, we're not going to have the big stats anymore. No, it's just not going to happen.
No, I mean, I think you see when Felix Hernandez won the Cy Young with 9-12 record, but his ERA and WHIP was down there. I think that was that change from 8-9 years ago when he did that, and it's like, okay, that's not going to happen. I mean, I think there's like 2 people that have over 200 wins right now, so you just can't have wins as a stat anymore. It's not the world's greatest stat, anyways. But like you were saying, you talk to pitchers and they go, I only had 2 of my 3 pitches working that day, but I had to figure out how to pitch 7 because we weren't going to the bullpen. It's not like, okay, I got to make it through 4 and then they'll pick it up from there.
But look, do you not think a pitcher wants a W? See, I feel like there's this conditioning happening. Like, what's the Mets guy that's really sharp but doesn't win jack? What's that Mets pitcher? Yeah, DeGrom. Okay. Oh man, I just started to really understand that when he won a Cy Young, it not being a winning pitcher. Because man, do you remember Dave Stewart in 1988 or 89? That 27, was it him or was that Bob Welch?
That was Bob Welch. Bob Welch was on fire. Yeah, 26 games there.
And do you mean to tell me that those wins weren't just I mean, come on, dude. That guy was on fire. Those were 27 wins, and he earned them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I don't know. God, DeGrom needs to be on a winning team so he could feel what a nice ERA is and a sweet freaking win total. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I bring it up because you look at the Rays and they pulled Blake Snell in the playoffs. Oh, you know.
I love that as a Dodger fan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just like, what are you thinking? Like, everyone's just like, what the hell? Like, it's your
Bad move.
ace.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and that was when this analytics had spilled over, and it was like, you know what? Give him a shot. Go down with your ace. You don't have to go down with your fourth bullpen guy. It's pitched 3 days in a row, and history of blowing up things against the Dodgers. Like, I could believe the stats that said this is a bad idea.
How many times I've watched Dave Stewart do that since he's been a manager? If I had a nickel for every time he pulled that move and it just crumbles on him, I'd have $10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Blake Snell was absolutely fuming as well as he left the mound that night. You could practically see the reflection of the exit sign in his eyes. You could tell he was just done with that club's shit by that point.
It's probably best he's a Padre now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because to with everything that was riding on that game, to have one of the best pitchers in baseball pitching really, really well, and pull him was just absolutely
just somebody
insane.
got on first. Isn't that what happened? Just somebody got on and they pulled the string. Oof, yeah. As a baseball fan, that's really, really bad managing.
Yeah. Back in the day, if you had your ace on the mound and you even saw someone warming up at the beginning of an inning, he would go fucking apeshit.
I love it when you do see the pitcher that is like, dude, get out of here. I got this.
Yeah,
I've seen Clayton Kershaw do that a few times and be like, no.
There was a famous moment where Mike Mussina actually did that to Joe Torre, of all people. Joe Torre was who kind of started to come out of the dugout. He just was like, no, just stay there. You stay there. And that was...
it's playing it too safe. I don't know. Like baseball is not that, you know. Okay, all right. You want to talk about speeding the game up? Okay. A longer duration of pitcher in the game means less warm-up pitches from multiple pitchers coming in and instant replay. Get that shit out of here. Yes. Because you know what? It works both ways. The team will get some and the team will lose some. To me, that's the flow of the game. Like an umpire is going to make a bad call on your side and then he's going to make one on the other side too. Yeah. To me, it works out. Like there's so many plays that happen in baseball that it's just bound to happen, you know.
It drives me insane, like the bang bang plays they have to replay and they have to overturn it, where it was before it was like, you know, it was a gimme, you know, it was just like, oh, yeah, it's a gimme out, you know.
And Tommy Lasorda would argue his case, he'd still lose the call, he'd kick dirt on the umpire's shoes, and then he'd take it like a man and walk back to the dugout because that was the call.
Yeah.
I think in a way as well, this replay and all the robotics that are involved kind of takes a lot of the accountability away from the umpires. I think rather than having instant replay, really, I think it just kind of encourages laziness in umpires. You know, they're not going to want to do their job properly all that much if they know they've got the instant replay to help them. You know, if they make a bad call on a kind of like a split second's notice and then it just gets reversed, there's no consequence there.
So there's a whole thing behind that, though. So you didn't know that. So they get graded per game. And if their grade drops low, they start getting on less and less games, because they did an interview with a guy who was minor league games, and all of a sudden he started noticing he wasn't getting asked to do games. They said, "Oh, your grade's really low. You're missing all these calls." And so, the sooner you start dropping lower in grades for missing calls, the less games you start doing. They start bringing up other umpires to take place. See, there are a couple of major league umpires that must not be getting graded properly. We won't talk about Adrian Hernandez here. That's a whole other show. There are some calls that are made at the major league level these days that just should not be being made at the major league level. It's the top possible level of baseball, so the umpire should be the top possible level of umpire. They should be doing their job all the time, with limited exceptions where they do make a bad call. But it seems to me like every game there are at least a few calls that don't go the way they should. And again, I think it is a lot of it does owe to the introduction of instant replay technology, where they have that as a fallback and they don't necessarily need to be at 100% all the time. You know, when I look back at watching games back in the day, sure, there were pitches that were called incorrectly from time to time, and sure, there would be someone who would be shown on replay on the TV to have slightly beaten out a call that they were called out on, but that was much more rare than it is now. Yeah, I think you get more replay for it. I mean, and then you also have guys throwing 100 miles per hour. I read somewhere today there was more pitches over 100 miles per hour in the 60-game season last year than it was in the previous season in 2019.
Yeah, I mean it's like a fresh arm every other inning.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I've put the batting cage in the machine up to 100 miles per hour and hitting that's just like that. So I can't imagine with movement and then trying to get those calls right and things bang bang and not being in the right position. Like, there's a lot that goes on to it. So I'm defending the umpires a little bit here, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. Like I tried umpiring in Glasgow last year, and it opened my eyes quite a bit. I've been quite critical of umpires both in Scotland and in the major leagues before. Just saying like, oh, if he's an umpire, he should know what he's doing. And then I tried it, and it changed my view, because not only do you have the pressure of trying to make the call right, but then you potentially have like rather upset players around you that are going to let you know about it. It's not
You don't want anyone with a bat in their hands managing.
it really isn't easy at all. And I do sympathise in that way. But like I say, it's like as you go up the levels, surely the levels for everybody should increase. Management, players, obviously, and also umpires. You can obviously make the caveat that the game's faster than it's ever been, but that means that umpires have to be faster than they've ever been. If people can't keep up, then they need to replace them with people who can. It's the top possible level in professional baseball. And there's really not much of an excuse for not being at the ball game, so to speak.
Yeah, maybe less old men.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like how many of these guys are guys who are like probably in their 70s? And they can't keep up with the game. It's time to train people who can.
I feel like they are doing that with the managers, though. When I was a kid, every manager was 70 years old. You know what I mean? Like, and today it's kind of cool seeing these, I don't know, like Kike Hernandez type players becoming managers when they're retired.
Mhm.
And one of them, for instance, do you know the manager for the Texas Rangers, Chris?
As we quickly Google this away.
I'm gonna Google it right now. Chris with a dub Woodward. Chris Woodward. He's the manager for the Texas Rangers.
Right.
And he was a third base coach for the Dodgers a couple years back, and that's where I noticed him in his kind of like coach role. Because when I was 21, I used to work at this gym in the city of Monrovia, California, and I was there one summer day, and this kid walks in, and he's looking for a summer gym membership. And we get to talking. We're doing the paperwork and stuff, and Chris Woodward, whatever, this is his name, okay? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I live in Covina, but I'm coming out to Monrovia a couple days a week to help my aunt clean up her property, and I just want a gym membership on my way home. He goes, because I got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm going to be leaving to the minor leagues after the summertime. Like, oh, cool, Chris Woodward, kid going to the majors. So I kind of followed him, and he was an average player, and he was slick glove, and just a kind of a trip, and it made me feel really freaking old when he was managing a ball club. You know what I mean? Like, wow, dude, it's a trip when you get to the age and all your players, they're all Will Clark's been retired for 21 years, dude.
Well, that's, you mentioned Cody Bellinger. I was like, I remember his dad played for the Yankees. It was like, yeah, I had his card. That was it.
Exactly. And you just start seeing this this other generation, and the game is different. And I'm reluctant to see it happen, to say the least. But it is what it is. The DH in the American League had to be weird when they first brought that around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm curious if the season happens. Just we get as many games as we hope we can get, and we're not absolutely just destroyed by COVID, you know. But you know, you're still seeing probably the best players athletically out there ever. You know, I mean, there's no more, there's no longer that light hitting shortstop that can field everything.
What was the big bull guy, Greg
Yeah, Gary Lewinsky, yeah.
I mean, geez, Louise, that guy was a freaking tank, man. Like, yeah, you'd be hard pressed to see that player out there on the field anymore.
Yeah. Hello, John. You've come to double up on us. No, there we go. Yeah, it's interesting. So let's go back into your art. We'll talk more baseball here because we can probably spend hours in this. But you mentioned you were a skateboarder. So I was actually curious, did you say what skateboarding kind of influenced your art? And I also want to know, are you a Powell guy or are you what's his name? Christian Hosoi guy?
Okay, so the first pro skateboard I ever got was a Christian Hosoi. The first professional deck, you know, not a kid's skateboard anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, Christian Hosoi. So I was never Powell. We would watch the videos, but Powell wasn't hardcore enough for us. You know, I was like, I was more of a Dogtown guy. You know,
Yep.
Dogtown Alva. But whatever, we're just trying to be hardcore. But it definitely influences my art. I'd have to say, the real first art I had ever done, other than, you know, little drawings and stuff, was we would just paint on our grip tape.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know about Powell. Do you know of a guy named Mark Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. You know, I was a suburban kid that got, you know, like hit 6th grade, and I was going to be cool, so I picked up skateboarding when I could. And
very good.
Like 3 years.
If you think about it, anything cool in regards to anything anymore trickles back to skateboarding. Okay, and just look, just dissect anything you see as cool, and it will trickle back to skateboarding. And so Mark Gonzalez was the weirdest skateboarder of all time. He was so weird, eclectic, but what he was back then was always creative. Okay. Mm-hmm. He always did his own graphics. He always painted on a skateboard, and he was just free. You know what I mean? I saw him, and I still see him, and he's still very relevant today as freedom. You know what I mean? He never had constraints. He wore the clothes he wanted to wear. He was goofy when he wanted to be goofy. You know, he'd wear a dress to be stupid. Like, to me, that's what being free is. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're like, everybody's just trying to be cool, and we put on these little masks and stuff when we're in public, and trying to create personas, and then really just the best persona is the one that you're not faking. You know what I mean? Like, just being you. Yeah, you might be goofy, but that's what I think is happening right now with baseball cards. Dude, you're not cool. You're not cool with baseball cards. Baseball cards never made anybody cool, you know? And you didn't talk about baseball cards with girls. And so I think it's cool now that, you know, as an adult, like, you know, we can be dorks, and who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm really not trying to impress anybody anymore. You know, it's
exactly. There's no one to impress.
Those
you know,
days are over. You know what I mean? And so, you know, you can be free. You can. I mean, I make my art. I do the baseball card stuff. I make a little music. And to me, if I'm not doing something creative, then I'm not even living. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel. It's really like that.
So it's interesting you say that, because I just did an interview with a couple of ladies who are big baseball fans over here, and they do a podcast called Birds with Balls. And one of them had gotten into cards because I post all the Project 2020 cards, and she coupled those there, and she became a big fan of F. And she was like, I don't think I ever would have bought baseball cards, but the art side of that really appealed to me more than that there. And so she's like, you know, I wouldn't call myself a collector, but I definitely see it as from the art side of things now. So so she sends me messages every once in a while. I'm like, well, who am I looking out for? What artists are doing stuff now? What, I'm like, well, I've mentioned, there's the whole card art movement. She's like, this is really cool. I didn't know anything like this existed. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
we're all really big nerds. We're all destroying our cards and doing this again here. I mean, because you mentioned Nick Perez, and I'm thinking like Leroy Neiman. That was my first, seeing his sports art, and then obviously Nick Perez, and then Vernon Wells Jr. And I was like, I was exposed to that as a kid, and just didn't think about it. Just like, oh, it's a cool card. I like that. And now everything shifted. Now it's like, yeah, I know. Baseball cards as art is definitely a thing.
It really is. And I showed you those. I was manipulating cards in 1991 because I had the current Will Clarks. You know what I mean? There was no card show in the near future, and so I would just take my doubles and take magazine clippings, and I glue the magazine clippings to the card, and I'd slip those in, and that was always the back page of my album. Like, hopefully me and my friends don't have to get to that page, but that was my own personal, like, yeah, I got 9 extra cards in my collection because I put them there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just that stuff. So it was always from a collector's aspect. My first art that I made is for me. You know what I mean? It's for me. It was to put on my wall.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's how I see art. Like, and when I make a player that's not and it's so weird. Like, I always get the best response when I'm not trying to sell something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're doing it because you enjoy it, and you're not doing it to like, I think I can sell this, and there'll be someone out there that will buy this there because I know it's a player they like or something along that line there.
My best result always comes from just doing something, and I don't know. I get bored. I don't get bored making art. I get bored with making the same type thing over and over. So you'll just see a couple of different things going with me. You know what I mean? The little boxes or the. Now I'm doing the little T420 cards, I'm calling
Yeah,
them.
I said, like, you seem to change about every 2 or 3 weeks there. And there's something new from you. You produce a lot of content, which is awesome. I love it. I'm like, oh, what's Bill going on this time now?
Yeah.
And so I was actually going to ask you about your tobacco cards. So was that just something that you decided to do? Because I'm starting to see that now, but I don't know if I maybe saw you first starting to do that there, because again, everyone's like, I'm gonna cut out my old cards, and now everyone's like, oh, I can do these T206 cards now and try to do something with that. And I end up guilty. I try to do one myself. So
no, it's
I love the fact that you zigzag, and you open up there.
Yeah, so for me, well, I have zigzags in the house. So I was like, all right, dude, I need to do something different. All right. And zigzag was open, and I'm like, oh shit, that's old baseball cards. Baseball cards come from tobacco packs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started doing this, and then really just that. And, and I have this replica Honus Wagner card that's just always on my desk.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I said, this is kind of cool. Like the shape, the real slender shape. And I don't know, I felt like it worked. You know what I mean? It kind of gave me a challenge in fitting as much artwork I could in that little sliver of space. And so it makes me have to choose the right picture. And anyways, yeah, I'm just kind of like throwing it back to the beginning of baseball cards.
Yeah. No, I think it's really cool. I'm surprised no one thought about it first, because it does come back from the tobacco pouches, and that was really what that there. So when I saw those pop up, I was like, oh, these are awesome. I'm so glad somebody's actually doing this as a. I've
gotten a few messages from some of the other artists, like, God damn it, dude, why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? Like, and I've been there before too, like, why didn't I think of that? And it's kind of cool to be on the other end of that sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I'm really enjoying this movement, and I'm really curious to see where it's going to end up, or if it's going to just be a bubble that bursts like baseball cards did in the '90s. So I really hope it doesn't. I think there's so many creative people out there, but then I'm starting to see people copying each other now, and there's no originality now. And I'm kind of going, oh no, we've hit that stage of 95
And well,
tops.
look, this is where you're gonna see who is who.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you have to, like you said, people are copying each other, and that's cool. I mean, because man, and there's this book going around, How to Steal Like an Artist. Have you seen that book?
I've heard of it, yes, but yeah, exactly. When you take someone's idea and there's improve on it.
So that's a double-edged sword right there to
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it does take a spark to create a spark. You know what I mean? And so I do think it's cool that a lot of people have gotten creative, you know, like taking the razor blade out and focusing on something that's not the TV or video game. You're going to get you're going to benefit from it. Okay. Hobbies are underrated.
Yep.
All right. They really are. A good constructive hobby is so underrated. And I promise if you have listeners right now, you'll knock out a second of depression if you get a hobby. Okay. It'll take you away from that bad place for 5 minutes at the least. You know what I mean? If you just have something else to focus on, and that's cool. So people are I don't know, trying to be creative, and that's good. Okay. So there's no knocks there. Now the next part of being creative is really knowing what's out there and not copying it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, so for me, I have so many artistic influences, and I think it's because I don't choose to use one influence heavily that my artwork doesn't look like Picasso. You know what I mean? Because he's a huge influence, but Picasso will come out in whatever abstraction is in the artwork. Okay. And Basquiat comes out when I put words and text in my art, and other artists come out in other aspects of my art. You know what I mean? Like Robert Rauschenberg is the texture in my art. Anyway, so, but I don't choose to, but shit, this might go over freaking well if I did cubist baseball paintings.
Yeah, you never know. You know, it's one of those things you kind of just go, I got to do something. But I mean, absolutely. I mean, I when I was doing my cards, I still need to send to yours. I just my kids go back to school in a week, so I have free time again.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I can absolutely see, like, I definitely crib from 4 or 5 different artists and going, you know, I'm taking a little bit of this, taking a little bit of that. But, you know, I would, you know, always make sure I said, you know, this is what the inspiration from. And I've reached out to this artist and said, you know, you've inspired me to go do this. And you know, this is exactly, you know, what I do. And like you said, like, I mean, for me, it was my collection of Sports Illustrateds I had from like 85 to 91. And like the first thing I do was read all the articles back to front and then cut out every baseball player and make a collage with all of them there. And that was
exactly,
you know,
exactly.
So, so yeah, so it's just, I'm also just wondering if it's such a small community of what, 200 artists that you just start seeing everyone's stuff and it starts looking the same regardless, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so that's always what I'm trying to not be like. Man, and it's funny because I use baseball flex and bits and string and stuff in my cards from cut baseballs, and I'm happy about that one because I feel like that one is such a obvious steal. If you started putting baseball string on the artwork, you know, that if somebody else was, it'd be like people would be going, hey, that one is not okay, you know. I think I claimed that one because no one else has done it yet, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, cool. No, it's been fun to see everyone's work kind of evolve, and I think I've been following you for like 2 years, so like this is always awesome to go and actually talk to the people I've been following there. It's so much fun. I was gonna ask you about your Will card collection. So what's your grail? What's your one card that you have that is like, oh, that's it?
Okay, I'll just say it would be the '87 Fleer, the one that I saved up my birthday and probably Christmas cash for. I got it in '89. I think I paid $25 for it at the time, and then it got up to $35, and then I got out of baseball cards, and then found out that baseball cards weren't worth anything in 2016. You know what I mean? Like the era that I collected was worth jack. So that would be it. I mean, just a simple '87 Fleer Will Clark, but it was the one that I had been wanting, when I was 15 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny because it's, you talk to various people and they always said like, oh, like '87 Tops was always their card, and I said I probably would have bought '87 Fleer if I could ever find it, but my section of the world never had the '87 Fleer, so I had no luck with that there. But yeah, I saw you had was it '85 Will Clark USA card, and it was yeah, where was that from? Because I know you didn't make the cut for that, but was it just a sponsored thing or?
Well, so you said USA?
Yeah, it was from when you played on Team USA. So, you had the '85 Tops had the Team USA one, but there was obviously a Will Clark card. I thought you saw.
Oh yeah, it's so weird. I don't know. If you didn't know, he was the best player on the team. If you didn't know that,
he just got overlooked. Yeah,
absolute best player on that team, and they just didn't make the card. It's so weird, but whatever. I got the bootleg, so yeah, it's so weird. But that's another part of his career that I started to collect more was like his pre-baseball, his pre-MLB. So been picking up as many of the Olympics things I could. I got to meet him a couple years back, and man, that was awesome. And he signed so much stuff for me that day, and it's kind of cool because the same guy that lined that up for me, he will just take packages from me, and when Will Clark comes to town, he'll get him to sign stuff for me. And that's 100% art related. 100%.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
his friend is on Instagram and he sees my zealous approach to Will Clark. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, I know. We always had a battle because I was a McGuire guy and my best friend was a Will Clark guy, and so we always said who was better. And it used to drive me insane because my baseball swing is like exactly like Will Clark's. I said no, I'm gonna be like McGuire. And that was my comp at that. And then John Olerud made it big, and John Olerud was from the area. We went to the same high school, and then I had the John Olerud comp, and then I was like, oh, your swing's like John Olerud. I said okay, well,
nice.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
No, it's good.
Olerud had a great
swing.
Yep. Sweet swing on John. Now, Bill, I want to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned earlier. The first being your first ever art. You mentioned that you started off doing Negro League art. That's very unusual among artists from the project. A lot of people have kind of learned about Negro Leagues later in life. How was it that you got started on Negro League? How did you first learn about the Negro League? Where did your interest come from?
One, I'm a Dodger fan. I grew up with the Dodgers, and Jackie Robinson is they push him. You know what I mean? So growing up, I had a little knowledge of the Negro Leagues because of Jackie Robinson, and but that was it. You know what I mean? And as I grew up, and saying I told you there's this period of time I went to a John Basquiat exhibit, and around the same time I had acquired this set of books, and it was a I don't know 7 series set of baseball books with a lot of pictures. I mean, I don't really read, so a book with a lot of pictures is perfect for me. So I'm just flipping through, and then the section came about with catchers, okay? And it was heavy Yogi Berra, heavy Johnny Bench, a couple, the big names. And then off to the side, there was just this one little square, and it was talking about how awesome Josh Gibson was in the Negro Leagues. I'm like, oh, the Negro Leagues, that's cool. So I just kind of like saw that picture. It was a great picture. And that was, can you see it? I guess you can't, maybe you can see it. It's a little painting, right? Little blue painting right there.
Yep.
And that's the Josh Gibson one. And anyways,
Nice.
I painted that one, and I learned everything there was to know about Josh Gibson, and then it was the next one, and then it was the next one, and then a year and a half went by, and that was the only art I had done for a year and a half, was make Negro League paintings. And it was funny because when the last one was about a couple weeks away from being finished, I had already made a relationship at the Museum of Tolerance in LA. And but that's a Jewish museum regarding the Holocaust and stuff like that. But tolerance is the issue there, okay? And so I just proposed an exhibit, and they bought it. You know what I mean? And so my baseball artwork was occupied the entire top floor of this museum for 6 months. It was really awesome that it was there. I mean, the museum was open. They had a docent going around reading about each painting to bus loads of children that were getting off and going to the museum. And the museum director, this very educated British woman, was really excited to learn about baseball because her husband was a huge baseball fan. And so she was taking what she learned about the Negro Leagues and using it as trivia to see if her husband knew about it. And anyways, it was cool. It was interactive. And it just came from passion. That was it. Like 100% passion. Like, it was fun to learn something. And it was also fun to be able to show what I've learned to other people.
So to carry on from that, something else that you mentioned earlier was back in the day when you were in school collecting baseball cards, you were very interested in the details behind the player, the about the guy sort of thing, how many kids they had and whatnot.
Yeah.
How important is that in your approach to painting a player? Would you say that that's important for you to research the player? Is it important to know these facts and have them at the forefront of your mind when you approach how you're going to design it?
Absolutely. I would pull the damn painting off the wall, but for me, the paint, those style paintings are a literal interpretation of a baseball card. So since it's just one-sided, only the face you see, within the abstraction and all that is where he was born and the dates and pertinent statistics, you know what I mean? Milestones. And I do that because that's a baseball card to me. So like when it runs through the Bill Cormales Jr. filter, that's what a baseball card is to me. It's pictures and it's information, and you can learn from it, you know what I mean? And so even better was researching online and going just beyond what you would find on a baseball card. Okay, so beyond their height and their weight. Like for instance, on a Ty Cobb painting that I painted, I put "Mom killed Dad" within the artwork, okay? And that happened. And you don't know that. I didn't know that, but Ty Cobb's mom killed his dad, okay? And Ty Cobb's history shaped how Ty Cobb was. So Ty Cobb gets a really bad rap in regards to being a violent person or being racist, and a person's own history shapes how a person becomes. Okay. And so the background story to me is almost more important than the player. All right. Because it takes so much. It's in today, even not worse, even crazier, because moms give up their lives to make sure their kid gets to their baseball games and all those leagues and stuff. And there's a lot of dedication. But back then, you were considered a loser if you wanted to play baseball professionally. You know what I mean? There was a time when you told your mom, I'm going to go out there and be a professional. What? You're going to be one of them rugrat lowlifes? And that's just weird. But in the late 1800s, it wasn't this $1 million thing. You know what I mean? Like, owners were still trying to not pay the players. You know, today, you know, if you're a decent player, you could get a $50,000 signing bonus. You know, back then it was dirt and it was gritty. And anyways, so I just feel like the history of the player's background is really pertinent to the baseball player that they are. You know, everything about.
Yeah.
Look, I've had whiskey with Honus Wagner before. Okay, I can't explain it any more than reading Honus Wagner facts and painting Honus Wagner at the same time and sipping whiskey. It was kind of weird, you know what I mean? Like that's when all the spirits were working together, and I felt like I was having a real one-on-one with him. It was really weird, but yeah, it's just things like that, like just going in and just knowing. See, for me, I knew everything about Will Clark since I was 12.
Oh, yeah, you got as much information as you can get on him. Yeah.
Everything. Okay, but I didn't know jack about Josh Gibson. Why? Because they just don't offer up that information. You have to get it yourself.
So I'm curious. So what kind of whiskey were you drinking? Since we're in Scotland, we got to ask.
It was Maker's Mark, just a regular bottle Maker's Mark. Was that straight bourbon?
Yeah, okay. I like Maker's Mark. I've had some good times at Maker's Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned whiskey, and you know we're in Scotland, so we got to know what kind of whiskey you're drinking.
Well, so my family's my mother's last name is Campbell, and from Scotland, and my uncle he did this backpacking trip through Europe when he was, I don't know, just out of the Navy, so he's just early 20s, and so by the time he got into Scotland, he went into a pub, and the first thing he saw on the wall of the pub was a sign that said "No Campbells." What does that mean? Are the Campbells sons of bitches there or what?
I believe it goes back to an event known as the Highland Clearances. And there was some business with a monarch that went down a couple of 100 years ago, and it was quite messy, and the Campbells were at the forefront of that.
Yeah, so we're
my
a baseball card and art and history podcast.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but I believe it has to do with the Highland Clearances.
Gotcha.
See, my name's actually Northern Irish. Don't know if you know that, Jason. I'm not actually. My name's not.
You're a Mick, not a Mac, huh?
Yep,
Oh,
I'm a Mick.
I've got to find a new person to podcast with. No, I didn't know that. But then, you know, being an expat over here, I tend to head out with other expats, especially with Edinburgh. It's really hard to actually meet any locals. I mean, I've been here long enough. That's not a problem here. I mean, you go to Glasgow and you can meet Glaswegians, no problem there, and it's fun, and they're definitely more social than it is here in Edinburgh. But where I'm at, it's all expats.
I mean, that's cool for you, like if you just get there, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like what kept me here is the first thing I did is I found out there was an amateur, a baseball team, which I didn't know was amateur. I just thought I can sign up and help out somehow. I was like, cool, there's
Sure.
baseball in Scotland. I can help out. If it's like selling tickets or whatever I can do, I just want to be involved. And when I found out it was an amateur team, it was like great. So there was 15 people that speak my language. And I was like, I immediately had 15 friends that I could do it. I mean, despite the fact I hadn't picked a baseball up in 8 years, you know, I was doing right. So I don't think if I had not found out about the baseball team, I'd be back in Seattle somewhere working for some terrible .com, trying to live the lifestyle that way.
Cool.
And that was it. It was just, you know, all of a sudden it was like, oh, you guys like baseball, and then find out, you know, how they get into it. Because say 2003, you got baseball on twice a week. It was on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, and you got whatever crappy teams that would show you. You know, like Sunday night you got good games. But Wednesday night you were watching Royals and Devil Race. You know, you weren't watching anybody good.
Right.
But yeah, as I've been here for long enough, like, you know, I'm in the city center, and it's mostly, you know, expats and foreigners that are here for a while, and most all the actual proper Edinburghers live out in the suburbs, and so you have to kind of venture out that way. And
now, do you have family from that area, or was this
nope, not at all. It was literally a 2-week holiday. It's turned into 18 years.
Wild.
Yeah, so the condensed version is I came over for a 2-week break because there was no jobs, and I was traveling with a French girl, and I was trying to convince her to go to Paris, and she's like, let's go to Edinburgh. And so we were like, I'll go for the weekend, and I'll go to Paris. And I just fell in love with the place, and it was at a time you could work illegally. And I just worked, you know, cash in hand jobs for a while, and I was like, okay, .coms are not going anywhere, that everything's recovering in Seattle. I'll just kind of wait it out, and then when it gets better, I'll move back home. And then just kind of fell into a group of guys and met my wife, and my wife's from Sweden, and yeah, we just stayed.
Crazy. Yeah. See, I have an aunt that's in Sweden. She left America in like 1980. And she kind of did the same thing. Like, she just went out there for to leave here for a second. You know, she didn't know what she was doing.
Mhm.
And it's been since 1980. I mean, she married, had kids, and so I got Swedish cousins, and it's a trip, dude. Like, the first time I met those little guys, oh my God, they're so funny. The Swedish people are funny. I love them, and yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
What part of Sweden are they in? Just out of curiosity.
Okay.
Because they're either in Stockholm, Gothenburg, or Malmo.
Stockholm.
All right, yeah. So otherwise you're out in the middle of nowhere. So those are kind of the three big areas that people tend to live in there.
So it was kind of crazy growing up, and they come out on the holidays and stuff, and I know little minor Swedish phrases and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways, all right, we'll get back to whatever we're talking about.
No, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's interesting because, you know, the same thing. Like, both my kid, well, my 6-year-old is taking Swedish classes and completely understands Swedish, so it's not a problem at all. And
awesome.
I
love that culture.
Yeah, you know, and funny enough, baseball is bigger in Sweden than it is in Scotland and the UK.
Wild.
Yeah, so they have quite a few teams compared to us. And then you hit baseball on the continent, and it's much bigger. You just don't hear about it because it's not an English speaking country, or if English is the first language, and you just wouldn't know that.
So the Yankees came out there, was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yep.
How was that? Was that a big thing?
It was a huge thing. It was completely overpriced. So
crap. It was crap. The Yankees, we won both games, but still it was crap.
So they kind of crammed a baseball field into a track stadium. It was turfed. The ball carried further than it should. I don't think they put anything out. And of course, the first thing I noticed was the backstop wasn't the regulation 45 feet that it's supposed to be from the plate.
Okay.
And so they were like crammed in there. It took a game for everybody to get used to how the ball was bouncing off the field. They really kind of went for the lowest common denominator. So they were trying to explain the game as it was going. And
sure.
It was like a circus spring training game, and I think they really undersold it because if you're a fan of baseball, you're already staying up till midnight or later watching games, and those are the
Mhm.
people that were going. And so
Right.
you had quite a few people that flew in for the weekend. But I mean, I paid the equivalent of $500 to sit behind the left field side, just past third base, because I wanted to actually see the action.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool because we ended up sitting behind all the Yankee executives.
Oh, okay.
So it was like the CEO of finance was there, and they were wearing their World Series rings. So I was like, "Can I see the ring?" They're like, "Yeah, take a picture, man." And then for the second game, we sat in the left field bleachers, and we were on the first row bleachers, and that was the equivalent of $150. But it was cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
So are they trying to expand the audience, or are they gonna be playing games out there again? What was the point of that?
so they're trying to expand the audience. They were supposed to be Cubs Cardinals last year. And then I think they were talking of going into Europe and doing more games that way and just kind of expanded, kind of like the NBA and NFL. The NFL has a huge foothold in here because they've been doing it, and they had NFL Europe. So they were trying to just kind of get another audience. It put off a lot of people with the cost because you know what it's like. You go to a game. I mean, you can go sit in the bleachers for $30. You know,
Yeah.
you don't think twice about that. But if you've got to pay $150 to have a decent seat to actually see the game, you're not going. The cheapest seat was $50, and that was like upper deck, nosebleed level.
Right.
And I think they didn't know their audience. If they had said, okay, actually the people are coming to the game are baseball fans, we don't need to try to sell it, and maybe as a TV thing they could have said, okay, look, here's the kind of rules of baseball. But it was a circus atmosphere, to say it best.
Sure.
So, but for a lot of people it was their first game, so they were thrilled. And as you can say, that kind of is like an old school guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need this circus here. I literally just put the players on the field and let's get going here.
Yeah.
Think of poor Mark Donaldson. Jason, if he had been to a game like that in Houston in his first game, he would have loved it. What was it? He said it was a 17 inning 2-1 game or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was the first game he had double header.
So I mean, it was good for growth out here. I don't know how much it will continue to grow out there, and there's people trying to grow it out that way. But I think a lot of the problem is they focus on trying to get the U.S. audience to pay attention to the British people in charge here, and I don't think it's a good way of kind of growing the game there. Whereas from my perspective, I'm always trying to find at the grassroots level and find people that are interested and develop that thing over time. Because if you turn it into a baseball game and it's 12-10 and there's 8 home runs in the last 5 hours, you're not going to watch that again.
Yeah.
Did it grow the game here that much, Jason? I'm not so sure that it did. It was I thought it felt more like a novelty. Last year's even before the pandemic kicked in, and even taking into consideration that the Euros were supposed to be happening at the time as well. Ticket sales were pretty rotten last year when it was cancelled. I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing for baseball that they ended up not coming over.
I think a lot of people were doing the ticket tout thing where they were waiting to buy tickets on the day and buying for a quarter of the price than what they were doing because it was so expensive. I was doing the same thing. I was like, I'm not paying full price when I know I can buy a $50 bleacher seat and then go sneak into the luxury seats because the guys that are ushers have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't think I heard of anyone last year who joined the league off the back of the London series. No one took up playing baseball in Scotland.
But it wasn't aimed at growing it on an amateur level. It was aimed at growing the audience in the UK and Europe.
True. But I mean, what's the percentage of your league that are people who've seen baseball back in the day on Channel 5 and decided to give it a go?
I'm trying to give it a positive spin here.
It was an awful idea from conception to execution.
But yeah, I think if the pandemic didn't happen, I think you got Cubs Cardinals, that would have given us a true reflection of who the fans were going to the game. Because I spent $1,000 over that weekend for train, hotel, food. It was not a cheap weekend. And we all said the same thing. It's like, well, why don't we save this money? Go fly to Miami, because there's flights to Miami, and then go sit in Marlins Stadium because there's seats there, and go see it for half the price. And guys had done the same thing. Like you could literally fly to Boston, New York, or Toronto, and for the same price you were paying for that weekend in London, you would get a 3-game series in the States, and plus the experience of being in the States.
You could go see a decent level of baseball in London for free.
So I think it helped grow the game, but I think it's also stunted it now. I think it's all gone. I think all the momentum we were building is long gone now. So again, we've got it. BT Sport shows, they had caps off.
Mm-hmm.
I may not have ever watched it, but I know it's there. The problem is it's very much targeted to a British audience, so people are just learning the game there, and I it's like being mansplained to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've been playing baseball or been involved in 40 years, and I don't need, the sacrifice rule explained to me. I'm well aware of how that works there. So, so that's the catch-22 of being a baseball fan in the UK, because you have such a wide audience. I mean, the best example is we literally had a guy who played in the minor league baseball for the Mariners before blowing his arm out, got his engineering degree, and works in the oil fields out here. So you have a former player, and then you literally have a dude who showed up because he went to a game in Toronto and then bought a glove for his right hand because he's right-handed, and that was what he would do. Is I like baseball now. I've got this glove. How's it work? How do you throw with the glove on?
That's a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah, I ran baseball in Scotland for 15 years as a player, manager, coach. I on that, and so I would deal with a lot there. And so like literally, this guy showed up. He's like, I went to a Blue Jays game. I bought a glove there because I thought it'd be hard to find one here in Scotland, and I bought a right-handed glove. Now, how do you do this? It's like, yeah, exactly. So this is the spectrum. Whereas we all grew up with Little League. I mean, whose parents didn't like? Okay, you're 6-year-old. It's time for you to play soccer and baseball and basketball if you're tall enough.
Yeah. Just automatically grew up with it.
Yeah. So it's completely different. So you get guys who play soccer. John, when did you start playing soccer? 4, 5, 6?
I don't know, before, probably since I was about 3 years old, I've been playing football.
And so the big thing out here is there's not many sports you play with your hands out here. So you have cricket, but that's a very posh sport. So that's not something that people normally get to play.
It's not a posh sport.
All right,
it's a wanker sport. It's not a posh sport.
Okay, take rugby. Rugby again is another sport that's very popular, but it's more of a kind of on the posher side of things.
You literally live in Edinburgh.
Well, I do.
Rugby is like the number one sport in Edinburgh.
You cover the football. I'll cover the cricket and rugby. What else are we missing?
Golf, I guess. Golf,
yeah, sport.
Yeah.
And you
wanker is
golf.
It's another wanker sport.
Yeah, another Edinburgh sport. So you don't get a lot of stuff there. So hand-eye coordination is your best is to try to find somebody from cricket background that sucks, but has that hand-eye coordination, and then you try to flip them. And then so it's a really interesting dynamic for people out here. It's hard to find those natural athletes because we do so many sports that require hand-eye coordination, whereas we came out here and everyone uses their lower half of the body for things.
Wow, that's so trippy, man. But that's the way it works, right? I mean, different country, different sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I couldn't understand it. Where it was like, how are you struggling to like hit a ball? And it was like, well, badminton. You get people to play badminton, and they've developed the hand-eye coordination, or tennis, and that's are those wanky sports too?
No, you're not too bad. Yeah, darts, but you have to be steaming. You have to be drunk to play that properly.
Billiards and snooker. There you go. Those are the games. Pub games we're good at. So
yeah, I like pub games, which is ironic, really.
Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. I think I had one more question I was going to ask you.
Well, while you're looking for that, let me ask you, Bill, about the Negro League coloring book that you did for the NLBMArt.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
it's on your website, billcormalisjr.com. Do you want to talk to us about what went into that, and give your pitch as to why people should pick up the book?
Okay, yeah. So when the pandemic started, obviously everybody was kind of just made to be more inside of your home, and make a long story short, I just draw. There's just no shortage of drawing for me, and I just get really impatient. So I'll draw a picture, and then as soon as those lines are drawn in black, I'll grab the colors and I'll start coloring it. It's just this weird impatient thing to complete a project. So I was like, all right, man, I'm purposely not going to color these things because I'm going to make a coloring book. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was just it. I just, for once in my life, I just didn't color the drawing, and I focused on a particular subject, and it happened to be the Negro Leagues. And I had actually done I made 2 coloring books during the pandemic. One was Major League Players, and then the second one was the Negro League one. And the reason you should get it is because you're not going to get anything like that anywhere else. Nobody's going to provide that to you except your good old boy, Bill Cormalis Jr., who cares about the kids. And it pairs well with the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go on the internet, you type up Buck O'Neill's name, you could see what uniforms he was wearing. You could be inspired by that to color, along with learning about the player. And the same thing with everybody. Everything I learned about these guys was between a few of the books that I have at home and just typing the name in on Google, and whatever popped up, you take from there. And so you will learn more from that coloring book than you will ever learn in school about the Negro Leagues, just by names alone, just by a name alone. You know what I mean? Knowing nothing else about them, you will learn 18 more names from the Negro Leagues than you would have learned from school. And you might only get to learn about Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and Jackie Robinson is about the extent of that.
How did your process differ when you created the colouring books? You've mentioned obviously that you purposely didn't colour them in. How hard was it not to? How did you have to adjust your process when you were approaching it?
Yeah, so the process was less individual drawings and more bulk drawing. So yeah, I mean, once I had, like, because I'll be honest with you, it's so hard to take that black and white drawing and stick it in a folder. I mean, I go crazy knowing that that's in there, not done, So yeah, it was just really just a different discipline than I normally do. But once I figured out what I was doing, it just makes it easier just to move on to the next one.
Excellent.
Where can we find that? So give yourself a chance to tell everyone where you can find all your stuff and your social medias, and they're all there.
Okay, yeah. So my website is billcormalisjr.com, BILLCORMALISJR.com. That's kind of a good hub for everything. And then my Instagram is @modernbaseballart, and on Facebook is the same, as Modern Baseball Art. Go there. I mean, if you want to see some cool stuff, if I do say so myself, regarding baseball, that in styles that you will never see from anybody else.
Absolutely.
I'm going to call myself the Picasso of baseball art.
Yeah, you trade that. I see you got the share. You have to go trademark that now.
Yeah, I think I should.
Jason, do we have a pack of cards to open tonight?
I've got some that the Stadium Club we were talking about, so we might as well open that. I do have those. I do have some studio cards, John. I got those in recently, so I'm excited to go back into the studio cards here. We got a pack of 1991 Stadium Club here. That's got the Jeff Bagwell rookie in it. I'm trying to think. We pulled one of those already, but we'll see
Mhm.
who we get on this one. There we go. All right. Well, first one up is a Dodger, Jose Offerman.
First home run in his first at bat.
Yep. So on the back of his card, it says insufficient major league data available for his accurate batting strengths and weaknesses. So it's a rookie card for Jose Offerman.
And that means he was a teen player from the Dominican that doesn't have real stats.
He played. So he played in 1990, and he had 58 at bats. So he got pulled up in September.
Gotcha.
All right. So we got The Rock, Tim Raines.
Sick.
There we go. We got the Brewers. We got Franklin Stubbs.
Oh my God, dude.
as a Dodger, they has rookie card in the back there. Franklin Stubbs.
I mean,
is a Dodger.
This was the precise reason I'm a Will Clark fan from that era. The Dodgers had nobody, and even when they won in '88, it was kind of fluky because the team was just a scrappy bunch of replacement players and a broken Kurt Gibson, you know what I mean? But that period of the Dodgers, they Greg Brock. Ooh, Greg Brock.
You know, the thing is that somebody quoted this, and I forgot about this. It was because you guys had Pedro Guerrero playing third base, and apparently, before some important point, at the game, he goes, "Oh God, please don't hit me!" And then he looked at second base, and "Oh God, please don't hit the Steve Stacks either." So I can't remember, but that was what it's Ryan Fagan on Twitter. He's a MLB sports writer. I think he works for the Sporting News, and he opens up a pack or two of junk wax a day, and then plays all the cards out and says, "Tell me a story about any of the players that are there." And if you're on Twitter, follow him. It's the cards are amazing. It totally takes me back to those late 80s, early 90s.
Nice.
Some really interesting stories about the players that are out there. And yeah, it was a Pedro Guerrero card, and that came up today. And I was like, oh yeah, that reminds me of the Dodgers. Because yeah, you had Franklin Stubbs and Greg Brock, and who was the third baseman? Jeff Hamilton. That's who it was.
I mean, they were terrible at that point. Man. Terrible.
Yeah, the Bulldog.
Kenny Landreau.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, we pulled another Dodger card. The Candyman, John Candelaria.
Wow.
So I remember him. We've got a Yankee for you, but probably not one you don't know. Alan Mills.
Nobody.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's back-to-back Yankees. Another fantastic year for the Yankees with Pat Kelly.
Those were the lean years.
Those are very lean years.
The pre-Tory years.
Well, let me see. We've got Padres, Paul Ferries. I don't remember him at all. Not even recommend his card.
Didn't you feel bad for Don Mattingly, man? The year he retires, then the next year the dynasty begins. Oh God, he played on the terrible. Spot,
That happened to my guy Mike Messina. He retired after 2008. Won 20 games for the first time at 40 years old, and then the Yankees won the World Series the next season.
Nice.
All right, we got the dreaded checklist card. Yeah, exactly. See, I liked it much better when it was a manager's card with the checklist in the back.
Oh! See if Will Clark's on that checklist. I'll take it.
Look really quick for us. Don't think so, but I'll double check off camera so we don't spend time in me going through the checklist. But yeah, if I can find a checklist in there, yep, absolutely. This is looking like a pretty crap pack. We got Bob Patterson for the Pirates.
Jeez.
Yeah. Jeff Brantley, the Giants there.
He's a great college player with Will Clark on the same team.
Oh, yeah, right. Who was at Mississippi State, huh?
Yep. He was a stud college player.
Done the last two. Tommy Green. It was a Brave.
That's a nobody pack.
Yeah, exactly. We might have to open up another one because the last card's even just as disappointing. We got Ron Hassey.
Wow.
All right, that was terrible. All right, let's open up another one because that was pretty crap. And then we'll call it a night.
Who are the big rookies other than Bagwell that year?
Frank Thomas, but he's not in this one. A lot of guys who fizzled out, like Kevin Mouse.
Oh wow, yeah, totally.
Exactly. Ricky Jordan, remember that? All right. Actually,
With a
here's a guy
rated
that
rookie?
fizzled out.
With a rated
You'll remember
rookie
it.
card that of a
Corey
guy who
Snyder. That was he was God in '87.
Yeah, he was a heavy hitter, man.
Yep. Played on that USA team. You can't see it. There's that picture of his 85 tops in the USA team there.
Yeah, he made it. Will Clark didn't. Whatever.
So Corey Snyder is either part owner or he is working for the Orem Orioles in Utah. I didn't realize he was Mormon. So he went to BYU.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
And I didn't actually put two and two together there. So yeah, so he's still actually in Utah there and working with the team there.
Cool, man. Cool.
Oh,
Those guys still in the game.
Kelly Gruber.
He had a year or two.
He did. Oh, there we go. We finally got somebody. We hit somebody. We got Cal Ripken.
Nice. There it is.
There you go. At least something decent out of this.
Yes.
There we go. Sid Bream. We always just remember him chugging the bases and Barry Bonds can't throw him out.
Fantastic, dude. And Barry Bonds couldn't get him.
Couldn't get him.
That was a moment. That's a moment he knew he needed to juice.
Here's somebody I thought was going to be big back in the day. Steve Decker. He was supposed to be the catcher of the future.
He had the hype on him. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, he didn't do it. Now this says this is Alex Cole, but if you look at this, that's Otis Nixon. There's no way that's Alex Cole. That is Otis Nixon there.
Absolutely. That's an Eric card, dude.
Yep, actually, you can see the back of it. That's Alex Cole in the back there.
What the heck?
But I'm gonna keep that one there because that's
quick.
Is Otis Nixon Trot Nixon who played on the Red Sox?
Trot Nixon's white.
Yeah, very white.
So Otis Nixon
guy.
is the distinction of like him and Willie McGee of being like the ugliest guys in baseball for years.
Big time.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he was white or black. I just remember a guy called Trot Nixon. And I don't think Trot would have been his real name.
You never know. Strange things that happen.
In baseball, you never know. That's true.
There we go. We got Mark Davidson. I don't remember this guy at all. Thanks for the Astros. He was a rookie, so it didn't really. Maybe it was the Twins, and then went from there. So Frank DiPino with the Cardinals there. It was kind of a middle reliever that kicked out and about. Again, one of those cards like 612. We got 3 of those in a box. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. Why him?
Mm-hmm. It's a good looking card, but it's Greg Harris. So nothing great there.
Nope.
All right. So we got a Yankee for you. Oh, we got back-to-back Yankees here. First one being Scott Kamenicki. The look on John's face is like, nope, don't remember him. And then John Habian.
Bunch of nobodies.
Yeah, exactly. This is 91. And this is when people are paying $5 a pack for this. You know, it was more expensive than Upper Deck. I don't know.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I don't think I ever bought a pack of those. I do not think I did. I feel like I just ended up with like maybe card showing and getting to Will Clark single out of that. And that's about that.
I didn't buy it either. I got a lot of 91, 92 Donruss because it was sold at Costco. That was it.
Wow. You know, I'm thinking back. I don't remember really ripping into packs, man. I was just like, the type of collector I was, even starting from a little kid, I just would go into the card shop and snag up Will Clark after Will Clark after Will Clark. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So opening packs is pretty fun though. I got a stack of 86 Donruss that I should break open on Instagram or something.
You know what? Is it still sealed?
In plastic. It's like plastic packs.
So yeah, I know the 86 Donruss has gone for quite a pretty penny right now because I bought a box for like $60 7 or 8 months ago, and it's like doubled in value. And I'm like,
what? Do
I keep it now? Do I not keep it? I mean, the only card in 86 Donruss is McGriff, Canseco, and Galarraga.
And then what if one of those isn't a PSA 10? Then...
Exactly. This is the problem you run into. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And same thing. I bought it as part of my series. Like I'm just going to open them up and talk about the players there. But I was like, I went with that, and then I got my box of 94 Upper Deck Update, which has the Michael Jordan cards in there.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that'd be a fun thing to chase, and then once I'm done with that, then I'll see about cracking open those 86 Donruss. So I really want to open those up. I think
that's awesome. I like that set. 86 Donruss is a cool set.
It is a cool set, yeah. And then I'm getting to that point where it's like, just open it. Like said, like don't sit on it. Like there's nothing of value in there. There's no point in sitting on it.
Right.
You know, you might as well just enjoy it for what it is. So
yeah, like those, like the what are they? The rated rookies, or is it top rookie? What is it?
So Donruss had the rated rookie. Topps had the rookie, also the rookie cup cards, and then Fleer had always had the pair of rookies on their cards.
Yeah, so there's some great rated rookies in that 86 Donruss set, like the Will Clark and the Jose Canseco one. Those are good looking cards.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I bought a box. That was one of those things I've always wanted to do, is open a box of those. So that will probably be my next trip, unless I get something fun. So
cool.
All right, last card. We got a Pete Smith, most generic guy in baseball. It's Pete and Smith. So we got out of 2 packs, we got a Cal Ripken card and a fake Alex Cole card.
That's awesome.
Cal Ripken isn't too bad though. We'll take that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you would have bought, 5-pack of card. You probably bought a box for like $50-$60. It would, in 1991, that was a lot of money for a box of cards.
Yeah,
I refuse to spend over $10 for a box of cards.
Right. Yeah, it's for fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show again. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Once again, that's BillCornwallisJr.com. Everyone, you can go there to shop Bill's art, and there's links to all of his social there as well. Jason, we'll be back very soon in the next few weeks for season 3 of Ball Caps and Bagpipes. Let's cross our fingers and pray to the baseball gods that we'll have some sort of a season to talk about over here. Yeah. If the pandemic eases up enough by midsummer. We will have intro music starting this season, which I'm excited about.
Yes, we have intro music. I got to export it so I can give it to you. So we have intro music. So you might actually be the first podcast to have intro music on it, Bill. So.
Awesome. Thanks again, Bill and Jason. I'll catch up with you soon.
Cool. Yeah. All right, Bill. Thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure again. Like, it's always fun chatting. We definitely have to get together and have another beer and chat baseball again.
For sure. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Good night.
Okay.